bids are in. The gavel is dropped. Ladies and gentlemen, here at WineBid, we are finally hammered. That's right. This is WineBid's podcast dedicated to all things wine value, wine retail, wine auctions. And my name is Jeff Kern here on our WineBid marketing team. With me as always is Paul Walker, wine auction and wine expert. This, of course, is our recap episode. So let's dive right into it, Paul. We've got a limited amount of time. A lot went on this last week. So let's start with the 2008 Henri Goutorbe Special Club Brut Grand Cru, which started at $65, hammered at $91. We had 6 of them with 11 bids. Not going to lie, I may or may not have bid on this item myself and been outbid. It looked...
Did you outbid? Did you not win any of them?
No, I didn't win any. I was like, there are 6. Of course I'll win one, right? And no, I won none of them. And I was just like, $90 is too rich for my blood. You know what I get paid over here. And you know I can't be affording no Henri Goutorbe wines at that price. 65, 70, I think I can make it work, you know?
Well, hey, we did make the mistake of mentioning it, so that's probably what happened.
We did. It's the finally hammered effect. We mention things, they go crazy viral. It's just been going on all the time with us. It happened when we talked about White Lotus and one of our podcasts, and then everybody started watching the second season because of us is the only thing that I can possibly...
I didn't know we also reviewed TV shows on the podcast.
It's anything we mention, it just goes crazy. We had a 2018 Domaine Julien Labé, and we talked about the Labés, right?
Yeah, I think these wines are funny because I think there's so many, well, I don't know actually for sure, but there are numerous different labels, right? And the other examples that have been in recent auctions have all done quite well. I don't know if they've gone this bonkers, $35 to $130. But again, there was only one of these, even though there were other Labé wines from 16 and 18, and they're slightly different, right? They're slightly different designations. This was like Parcel Rare, Parcel Rare, whatever you want to say, 35 to 130. And then there was the 18, the Sauvignon en Chalassane, which went from 40 to 120. So I think this wine might be slightly, smaller production than the Chalassane, but who knows? In any event, they're hot and there was a lot of activity. So
it literally
said reserves were pretty low.
It literally said rare on the label. It was going to get. I mean, when you put rare on the label, people look at that and they're like, I gotta have this wine. Although they misspelled rare, they added an S.
Did you see also that the Chardonnay actually went for quite a bit more, and there were 2 of those, and it started, I think, even cheaper than the Sauvignon. It's $25 and hammered at $199 a piece. So
I mean, there was a lot of action on that one. Yeah. That's a wine I should have invested my entire 401k in like 10 years ago.
Well, I don't think you wouldn't even be able to get that much because there's probably like
10 cases made
of like each wine, imported into the US. I mean, it's like, I'm sure it's micro production because there's just been very few records of this wine ever selling anyway. So, it's hot stuff.
We just don't see a lot. Moving on to some other stuff. We had some of that Weingut Hemen.
Yeah, that's been in a lot of that stuff. There's been a lot of it in the auction. I think it's starting to kind of, well, this is a different consignment, but there has been a lot of this particular producer in. In fact, there's probably still some in now of this wine. So not too surprised.
Not too surprising. Started at
$50 cheap, right?
Well, 35, I think, is what it ended up selling for 30, right around $35, $36 range. But
that wine did sell for 15 in recent auctions. So it's kind of interesting because it did hammer for $15 very consistently up until October of 2021. So it's just been a while since it's been an auction, but for many, many, many auctions, there was a lot of that wine available, and it never went for more than $15 for a long time until now. So
what about this 2017 type 00 wines, Eola Springs Chardonnay, that 7 bids, we had 4 of them started at 80, sold for 111 a bottle.
Yeah, well, so I have to say before even we talk about that wine that I don't know if you saw what happened to the 00 wines Corton Charlemagne. Well, it sold for a crazy price. I mean, it wasn't cheap to begin with, but it was really, really, really high. And I'm going to find it in just a second. It was in front of me, but it sold for, let's see, 1108. So $1,108, which was just wild. I mean, I
Wow.
don't see, and we talked about this too, because I said, you know, it was the first wine listed, I think, in all the new wines, because it listed the 00 wines first. And I said, Cordon Charlemagne. I was like, what? How did they do this? And obviously I haven't had a chance to find out what happened here, but there were 3 bottles. And two of them sold for $1,008, and one of them sold for $1,108. So the other one got a little bidding war, it looks like, on that single lot. But yeah, that for 00 wines, I mean, that was crazy. That was really, really wild. So I'm not sure. I'm curious as to like the whole backstory behind, you know, getting the fruit from Corton Charlemagne, bringing it over here. If it was made here, if it was bottled here, or if it was made in Burgundy or not, I'm not sure. So anyway, it started at 520, hammered at 11.8. That was great. This was another, you know, we've seen quite a few of these 00 wines recently.
Yeah.
Oregon sources. And so, yeah, Old Eola Springs, not too surprised that got bid up, but again, just rarity factor here, super collectible.
Let's go ahead and move on. We had, this one I thought was interesting, non-vintage Clement, Hersaval, Blanc de Blancs, Premier Cru, Extra Brut. This one, 27 trackers, 7 bids, took it from 25 to 62. Boy, was that underpriced.
Yeah, I know. That's interesting. I believe I mentioned this also when we talked about it last week. And I was like, oh, this is a steal, you know, for $25. Well, yeah, I had to pay a little bit more than that to get it out the door. But rare champagne obviously has a following, and it went for, I still don't think it's that expensive. I think retail for this stuff is probably got to be at least $50, $60. So
right in the wheelhouse. We had a 2015 Domaine Castanier, Clos Saint Denis. This one, we had 6 of them, 7 bids, took it from 120, and they hammered it about 220 a bottle. So these ones also, again, very underpriced for what it was. 2016 Domaine Julia. Oh, this was another one. I mean, you know, we already talked about
the Chardonnay. We talked about that. This the Chardonnay started the cheapest and hammered at the highest price.
Hammered at the highest, started the cheapest, hammered at the highest price. We had another, the Ali Auré Rosé Grand Cru. This one, non-vintage, 7 bids, 3 of them, 130 up to about 220. So again, you know, some non-vintage champagne.
Aigle Auré is just really hot. I mean, that's just what's happening. I think there were a couple other examples, and it seems to come in fairly regularly. This wine, I just noticed in the notes, it had a disgorgement date of 97. So it wasn't a, you know, very new example, if for lack of a better term. So I think this wine's probably been out of sort of retail, you know, avenues for a long time. I don't believe it's like a late release from the winery, because if it's disgorged in 97, it was probably sold close to 20 years ago. But anyway, it's just, Aigle Auré is just really hot. It's just hot stuff.
We had a 95 Pio Cesare Barolo, which started at 57 bids, took it to 80. And then on the Italian train, we had a 2016 Diego Conterno Barolo, which did you mention the Conterno Barolo?
No, not this wine. I didn't, because I usually talk about Giacomo Conterno. I didn't mention this, but $30 seemed like quite a deal.
Yeah, well, sold for 46. Just a lot of interesting action. I mean, there's even more of this Labé that sold for a bunch. I'll skip over that. And then there was a 18 Georges Vernet Conjou Couture du Vernon. This one, 6 bids, took it from 75 to 93.
Well, yeah, so this was interesting, right? Because there were a couple different examples last week of Vernet Conjou. And I think we were kind of trying to figure out, like, I think I was just sort of, thinking out loud and saying, like, why is the Côte de Vernon cost more than the other Vernis Condria? And I think it kind of had to do with the scores, because I looked back and I was like, wait a minute, there were mags of 18 Vernis Condria also for like 110 or something like that, but they didn't have any scores. And so I think this one just got bid up, frankly, due to the scores. And we also haven't seen a whole lot of it recently. Whereas I don't even know if those Magnums sold or not. Yeah, no, they're still available. I think maybe there were a few more, but there's the Terrasse de l'Empire Magnums of 18 and 90. There's 2 of them left. So they actually do have scores, excuse me. But it did seem like quite a stark difference. And I think, frankly, the reason it got bid up was because of the high scores.
What about this?
Les Oreilles? Were you going to say the Les Oreilles?
Yeah, the Les Oreilles.
Yeah, so that's like, we've talked about this wine, super, super rare Burgundy. It's like very, very young production, or I should say limited time out there in the market. It hasn't been around for very long, but it's super hot. There's been some, I want to say Pernod Vergelès from this producer that we saw. So when I saw it start at 95, I'm like, that seems pretty low. But I did not think it was going to get bid up to 480. That's quite a high price.
95 to 480.
Serious.
And then one that I had picked last week was the 2017 Masson Loire Bourgogne Blanc. This one, 75, was a starting point. 6 bids took it up to $100.
Well, did you mention this Fleur de Vigne? Because this is a different designation than the other. This was also non-vintage.
Right. And this one, 75, took it to 130. I thought it was interesting to see this Fleur de Vigne go for more than the Bourgogne Blanc.
Right. And I think it essentially, that's what it is, right? It's just the Bourgogne Blanc started at 75 and hammered at 100. So I don't know what the difference here is, other than it's a blend of more than one vintage. So I'm curious about that. Another fun one to kind of look up, because I don't think we've ever sold this before. No, excuse me, we have. It has sold before, except it was 2 years ago. It looks like it hammered it for $62 in December 21. So yeah, it's been a while.
And the last one with a lot of action on it that I'll mention before we sort of move on to the star performers. We had a 2007 Olivier Bernstein Gevrey Chambertin Les Casarites. I'm sure that's what I said. That's exactly what I said. This one's 15 trackers, 6 bids, took it from 90 to 121. So again, seemingly a lot of action on Burgundy this week, and a little bit of action and a little bit of action on Champagne and some Italian producers. Let's jump in to stuff. Let's move into some stuff that sold for a lot of money.
Oh, did you see the Duclos got bid up, the 09, which we did mention?
Oh, yes. The 90 horse.
Started 96.30, hammered at 10,130, which I think is pretty good. We sold one of these 09 Cask Collection Duclos before, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, hammered right at 10,000, and that was a couple of years ago. That's before the market actually. Kind of funny, because it's like it was in 19, and I thought 10K was, a pretty good price back then. And then I think things kind of went nuts and then came back to earth. So it was good to see it get bid up from the original reserve to to over 10,000. Yeah. Because it's an awesome collection of wines. And so that was exciting.
That was exciting. We had the 86 Mouton Rothschild 12 bottle lot OWC. This one went for 10,020. And then a case of 2000 Latour 12 bottle lot OWC went for 96.60. And then basically a lot of like OWC lots going, or multiple bottle lots. And then an 09 3 bottle lot of Coche de Merceau for 82.05. And then when you get into the sort of single bottle range, the, not surprising top performers, 2015 Domaine Romani Conti, Montrachet, and then the Latache going for 76.70 for the Montrachet, and then the Latache for just right around 5,900.
Yeah, and the Montrachet is kind of an interesting indicator, because the last hammer, I was just looking it up for fun, was in January of 22, hammer for 8,500. So that's come down a little bit. which is kind of interesting, especially when you consider recently the Carton Charlemagne went for more than, I think, $8,200. So kind of wild to see the Montrachet drop in price. I didn't really expect that to happen, but I mean, not that it dropped that significantly, but still, it's kind of seems like a more sensitive indicator as to what's going on in some of, Burgundy land as far as pricing that's gotten pushed up beyond realms that we would have imagined. I mean, the other one I noticed, and I always forget that in 2004, Domaine Loire, the wines were declassified. And so there was a bottle of the Nuit Saint-Georges that sold for $32.20, but you are getting a bunch of Grand Cru fruit in there. But you're not getting it at, Appellation Contrôlée prices.
No.
You're still getting it at Grand Cru prices. So
also the 99 Le Pen mag that we talked about.
Oh, right.
For $4,800. Yeah.
Did want to say actually that the Magnum sold for $4,800, which apparently the most recent hammer for this particular bottle was $4,300 at a competitor's auction house. And so it's always great to see setting records for bottles like that at WineBid.
That's right. WineBid setting records all week long. There was a 12-bottle case of Margaux OWC. It sold for $46.05. And then, the other thing that was cool, a 96 Latour 3-liter sold for $2,800. That's
cool. I forgot that was in. I don't know if we mentioned that or not, but I feel like it might have gotten mentioned. There was so many wild case lots and Bordeaux lots in last week. So a lot of them did sell in the first week, which is fun to see. But I don't think we even mentioned that. I don't think the Latour 3-liter got even mentioned, which is too bad.
I don't think it got mentioned. There's always so much to mention. It's hard. Anything else you want to mention before we wrap up here?
There was some Remedy Batard at $705. I thought that was kind of interesting. It's getting not quite into Lafleur pricing, but it's getting up there. 16 Petrus sold at $32.50. That was good to see. 05 Dominus 6-pack, there were 3 of those. Looks like they sold it at reserve at $11.40. Or excuse me, is that right? Yeah, $11.40. Yeah, I think that was pretty much it for some of the wild, high price stuff that was in last week.
I'll also note that a bottle of 1893 Madeira sold we actually sold 3 of them for $1,100 a piece.
Wow, I didn't see those. There was a lot of Madeira, and there was a lot of everything in last week.
There was a lot of, last week there was a lot of really old Madeira in from the 1800s. There were 18 bottles from 1863, 1870, 1893. So anyway, all right. Well, that about wraps it up for us on our wine auction recap show here at WineBid. Finally Hammered. With you as always is Paul Walker, and I'm Jeff McGurn. We'll see you next time. Happy bidding and cheers.
Cheers.